Alzheimer's competency test. 36 times he said, I can't remember.
Well, they began the impeachment proceedings that this Mueller report suggests Donald Trump deserves.
This report shows what Trump practices behind the scenes look like in that White House. Everybody should be extremely worried.
It's still very damning. I mean,
absolutely.
It's and politically embarrassing for the president.
And shameful.
And shameful. And unethical.
They're like the best unintentional comedy duo. Now, also, you got to check out, this is how many people they had on this CNN panel. Look at this. That's 7 people and 1 Jeffrey Toobin. Because he's not really people. But that's a lot of folks all there to say the same thing. But let's focus on Toobin.
What's significant about the 10 incidents is that there are 10 of them, and they all point in the same direction. And in each individual incident, there is a perhaps innocent explanation.
So, each incident on its own means nothing. But if you add them all up, they mean something. No, you are a moron. If each one is a 0, 10 of them still equals 0. Much like Toobin. Anyway, I've never seen so many people unhappy over good news. Your president is innocent? Be thrilled. But also, why are they so surprised? Just weeks ago, this happened.
Special counsel Robert Mueller concluded there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government in 2016.
That's literally a spoiler alert. The media were told what was coming, and yet they still pretended like it wasn't going to happen. But then
the special counsel's report did not find any evidence that members of the Trump campaign or anyone associated with the campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these hacking operations.
So all the media got on Thursday was a reminder that they got their ass handed to them a month ago. Yet it still emotionally destroyed them. It reveals the difference between normal people and the media. Normal people will watch a movie, and then when they see the same movie again, they expect the same ending. But the media, they watch the same thing over and over again, thinking that maybe the ending will change. Hey, maybe Old Yeller will live. Maybe the Titanic steers around the iceberg. Maybe Darth Vader isn't Luke's dad, but a progressive lesbian named Doris who knits hemp booties for homeless cats. But for us, it's the same old Die Hard. Good guy wins, bad guy loses, except it's America who wins and the media who loses. See, in this movie, America is John McClane and the media is Hans Gruber. No wonder the press is a mess. They fell out of a window from Nakatomi Plaza and made a big splat. Now they're banking on one thing, turning absence of evidence into Trump must be guilty. Rachel is already dining on that grape now.
But I watched Barr give his press conference this morning. All I did, I just ran straight to the office. There is a material here. I will be busy for the next year. At least. I mean, these 448 still redacted pages that we got today, it's like walking into a vineyard and you just like eat the skin off a single grape. We would tell you if we figured he didn't commit any crimes. It's a roadmap for how to charge this president. We can darn sure investigate you, and you can darn sure be charged when you're out of office. You can be impeached. This is like grape one in the vineyard.
You know when you're drunk and you come home to an empty kitchen and you're starving and you start squirting ketchup packets on the heels of moldy bread? That's
why they need customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual. They'll only pay for what they need. Yes, and they could save a ton. You've done it again, Limu. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty. VisionWorks can do more than just make you see great. The right pair of glasses can make you look amazing, too.
Get 2 complete pairs of single vision glasses for $59 or 2 progressives for $99. And choose from over 500 frames. VisionWorks, we're here to help you.
I don't keep track of regrets, and I don't add up the years. But what I do count on is Boost.
Delicious Boost High Protein Nutritional Drink has 20 grams of protein, along with 26 essential vitamins and minerals. Boost High Protein. Be up for life.
This is Keith and Melissa. These are Melissa's parents. They live next door. Right next door.
Oh. Hey, you got a package.
And when it was clear living 30 feet away had to change to living 3,000 miles away, they made the right move and called Pods. So they could store their stuff during house hunting and have it delivered once they found their new home, next to their not-so-new neighbors.
Mom?
Pods, the right move for your move.
We believe in rock and roll. We believe in blasting it down the fairway, turning up the heat and the fun. At Del Webb, we believe in life well led, in your own beautiful, smartly designed home, in an active adult community with sushi eaters, artists, thrill seekers, and you. We believe you'll like it here.
As King Midas, I expect a lifetime guarantee. And so should you. On struts, brakes, shocks.
Does he turn everything to gold?
Not everything.
Now get $100 back on a 2-axle brake service with your Midas credit card. Request an appointment today.
For Fatherly.com called her comments insulting because it perpetuates the idea that single dads damage their kids. Meanwhile, her intended target, Trump, found a new nickname for Joe Biden, called him Sleepy, which coincidentally rhymes with creepy. Maybe that was the case. Not to be outdone, Nancy Pelosi compared AOC to a glass of water.
When we won this election, it wasn't in districts like mine or Alexandria's. However, she's a wonderful member of Congress. I think all of our colleagues will attest. But those are districts that are solidly Democratic. This glass of water would win with a D next to its name in those districts.
Wow. Woo. So, woo. You see what's going on here? Everyone's insulting everyone. Thanks, Obama. Actually, anyway, for more on this, we go to an expert on insults.
Did I seem wasted during tryouts? Because I can't figure out how you made it on this team. You don't suck. It's like you have bad luck every time you step on the field. Dude, you're lucky your mom's hot. Dude, if I end up back in rehab this season, it's all your fault. Look at it this way. You're not the worst Little League pitcher on the planet. You just better hope that the kid that is doesn't quit.
Fantastic. I would like him to be my single father. Joe, I hope one day you get married and have kids so you can be a single dad. Because the marriage won't last.
Probably not, Greg. A lot of women find me very attractive, and it is hard to avoid temptation.
What are your thoughts on this?
I don't think America is like teenagers with a single dad. I see more of a Brady Bunch type of scenario where a widower comes together with a widow, and you don't really talk about what happened to their dead spouses. And then you have this whole household full of idiot kids trying to make this new situation work, but there's no hegemony. It's 3 against 3, and everyone's acting like Jan.
You're right. The boys are the boys are the Republicans, the girls are the Democrats. And
you want to change that, Greg?
All right, now let's flip it around. Never mind. I want to go to Kat, but I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, the only answer that I have to this is a little dark and weird, but I feel like you guys are cool enough to handle it, right? You guys are cool? Okay. So
and we'll edit it out.
I do not have divorced parents because my mom is dead.
That's right. That's right.
Anyone here have a dead parent? Anyone have a dead parent? We can talk about this. We can talk about this. So when she says this country is like having a divorced dad, I'm like, that sounds dope. That sounds awesome. You mean I can still see my mom?
Yeah, that's it. That is pretty dark.
I was offended by the whole divorced dad thing, but again, while neither one of my parents died, my dad did disappear.
Right.
Forever.
Yes.
So
yes.
Wherever you are, George, hi. I'm just real quick. The worst part of that, I have a friend. He's out there. He's 7 feet tall. His name's Tiny. We used to bodyguard together, and he had a speech impediment. He used to drive me nuts. Every time he'd talk, like we go down the street, apparently the first lady has the same disease. Like if she didn't say that would have been one sentence. Yes. America, divorced dads.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
Yeah,
my mom's dead,
Most guys don't actively seek a divorce because it is bad for your emotional, physical, and financial health. It's not, especially financial health. Part. And you go from like a big house to a studio that's close to the big house, and sometimes you might even see your wife's new boyfriend using your lawn tools.
Yeah.
Not figuratively.
I don't get the outrage here. I mean, actually, Trump is a divorced dad, but
not the most creative of analogy.
That's true.
Multiple times. And his kids do live with him, which means she's basically saying we're all kind of, Trump, some version of Trump's kids, which would make you Eric.
Yeah.
Although you can wear Barron's clothes. Wait, I'm not done.
He's not done.
I'm not done. I got material. I came with material.
All right.
And I know Ivanka, but I actually think Tiffany, and that's not an insult.
I take it as a compliment.
You, Joe, are like if they had a kid no one talks about who lives in the attic. Tyrus is this wonderful old large, wise tree that the children play around and like. And
because the president couldn't have had jungle fever?
No.
For real? For real? I had to be a tree?
Yeah, you got to be a true. And
not the maid's child?
I think it's obvious. No. I'm Ivanka because I like to have my own money.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, I can't hit her for this because I made terrible analogies, and I think I compared Barack Obama to mom's cool new boyfriend. I swear I did that. So, who buys you booze and porn?
They do that, Greg.
Yeah,
they do.
Mom's new boyfriend, always trying to impress the kids. All right, up next, romantic films. Is it okay to still call them chick flicks? It's a debate Bret Baier will not moderate. chick flick.
What is it?
That didn't end well. They're all at Chick-fil-A. Kat, as the only woman here, God help me, can you please speak for all women on how they feel about this topic, chick flicks?
First of all, when they say there are no movies made for men, I think that's wrong because I've been watching movies before that just have so many boobs in them when it doesn't make sense, where I'm like, I don't think this is for me. And second of all, I think that Netflix was actually super sexist, saying that calling something a chick flick makes it trivial and cheap. So the things I like are trivial and cheap. What a win for feminism. What a way to make women feel better. It just shows how stupid people are when they try to get so social justice-y. They wind up being accidentally sexist. So now Netflix is a sexist.
Yes.
And it's not even a person. That is hard, Greg.
Yes, it is. You know, Rob, you are claimed to be in motion pictures, or you claim to be in the entertainment industry.
I do claim that.
Yeah, you do claim that. What do you do? Is this just another thing where some stupid intern took over social media?
The social media manager made a huge mistake. They're all 23, so
yes.
I feel like chick flick is a word that men use to describe a movie that they pretend they were forced to go see. Like, oh, my girl made me watch a chick flick, and it was stupid about this woman who needed to get a date for a wedding, and like there's this other guy who really cares for her. And that's the end of that's. But they need to go. They need to dismiss it, which is fine.
Yeah.
You make a lot of money making chick flicks. Listen.
Yeah. You know, it's because women go to movies. Right? I can say that.
Well, couples go to movies.
Couples go to
movies.
Men go to movies alone at certain theaters. Tyrus.
The hell I do.
Yes.
Okay, what?
No, I'm just.
So you want to ask if I go to a...
He doesn't know about the internet.
Okay, right. Listen, chick flick. Okay, so would you like to say like movies predominantly watched by females of the human sapien persuasion?
Yes.
Like I love when I hear the word chick flicks because that usually means a sex bargaining tool at home.
Yeah.
Like if you do this, I'll watch your movie about pants. That they all share.
Travel.
Yeah.
The traveling pants.
But if I'm watching that, then it's Cirque du Soleil afterwards.
Right.
If not, I'm watching the game.
See, I believe that was a euphemism, Joe.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, I can't trust my judgment on this show. Last segment, I said I would possibly cheat on my hypothetical future wife before Kat bailed me out with that uncomfortable rant about her mom being dead.
Yes.
I just don't think Netflix should be telling people what to think because I'm a big fan of Forensic Files, and it said because you like Forensic Files, you might like Frasier. And that's not true.
That's so funny. It's true. They do point you in really weird directions. Yeah. The weird thing is, what they should do is when they see that you're watching Forensic Files, they should say, you like Forensic Files because you're lonely.
Yeah.
I love Forensic Files.
And?
Because you like Forensic Files, you may also enjoy leaving the house once or twice. Just to get some vitamin D out there, yeah.
I love Forensic Files.
Right.
I do, because there's always a dark side that's discovered later. But John had a dark side.
Turns out he's fine. He's innocent. Yes. We just were using spooky music for no reason.
Exactly.
Those stories probably get canceled. How does it end? He's actually Forensic Files proves that he was innocent. Nope.
Nope. Why one country star says hiring a hot nanny is a bad idea. You won't find this on Special Reports.
Don't tell your mother.
Dad, it's fine. just gotta promise me.
Oh, geez, who would I go to first on this? Tyrus, is it wrong? Can I ask you a question? Is it wrong to hire a nanny if you don't have kids? I'm asking for a friend.
I'm going to say, yeah.
Okay.
As a friend, I would say, please don't do that, bro.
Isn't this kind of unfair to nannies who are good looking?
No, this is unfair to her husband.
Oh, okay.
He showed up to an event and had to stand there and smile while she basically brought up all their business. What a loving wife. You're worried about the nanny? You should worry about how your ass is getting home.
Hollywood seems to be destroyed by nannies.
Yeah, well, that's because like Hollywood, everyone in Hollywood is a nanny to somebody.
Wow.
You know, your agent is a nanny, your manager is a nanny. Everyone needs first of all, I think that everybody does need a nanny.
Mm-hmm.
So but I feel like also in Hollywood there's a financial component. It's not just that you have a nanny in your house. You have a nanny in your huge house with this huge pool, and she's like a natural, like she's a human being,
Right.
naturally like. So I could get some of this.
Yeah.
Right now I live in a small room.
Right.
But if I play my cards right, I can live in a big room.
So the incitement of the giant pool entices the nanny.
It's a free market. It's libertarian.
And the stuck-upness, we can't cuss anymore, and the really wretchedness of your gold-digging wife would only inspire you. Oh, you don't think Kramer, did you not see her, what she said about him? Please. It's the attitude that drives us to your point. The little room is quiet and safe.
Don't yell at me.
No, I'm just saying. I don't know.
I didn't do anything.
There you go, Nanny, bro.
You're going through something right now.
Kat.
And that's okay.
Thank you, but I've been there.
Okay.
Kat, do you think this is unfair to nannies?
I think this is so offensive and stupid.
Okay.
I feel like if you are really worried about your husband banging the nanny, get rid of the husband, get a lizard. Get a dog. Get a dog. Get a cat. Get pneumonia. Get anything other than that husband. Seriously, cheating is not like falling down the stairs. It's not an accident. If you ever feel like you need to put a chastity belt on your husband, save yourself the belt money and get a new husband. Seriously. Or get no husband. Get no husband. I want a man, and only a man, who I could trust alone with a literal goddess who happens to be like covered in grease for some reason, and still trust that he will not touch her because his fingers will be too busy texting me back. And I think that all women should demand that. It's not the nanny's problem, it's your man is trash problem.
Oh, wow. You know, Joe, I don't think this is a problem for most of America, right? They don't have nannies or sex-addicted husbands.
Grease-covered goddesses are hot. You know, I do think it's more of a problem than a lot of people would like to admit. People, when you bring up sex addiction, they say, "Oh, that's not a real thing," which is weird because it just got added to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. But then, if you can consider all the mental illnesses people do consider real, like being afraid of clowns, you could go into a psychologist's office and say, "I'm a sex addict," and they would, it's ruining my life personally and professionally. They would say that's not a real thing, but you could say I'm afraid of clowns. And he would say, well, that's very interesting. Did your father try to fit a whole bunch of you into a really small car?
Up next, just how dirty are men's beards. We'll show you after the break.
To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop. Does this sound dismal? It isn't. It's the most wonderful life on earth.
Keith and Melissa lived next to Melissa's parents. And when it was clear living 30 feet away had to change to living 3,000 miles away, they made the right move and called Pods. So did their not-so-new neighbors.
Mom?
Pods, the right move for your move.
Arby's sells more euros than anywhere else in America. Partly because of this 2 for $6 deal, partly
It's worse than we feared. The stuff in a beard. A Swiss study, they have them there, looked at the amount of bacteria in men's beards compared to dog fur. There's a study. They found that 39% of beard samples had harmful bacteria compared to only 13% on the pooch. The study concluded, quote, bearded men harbor significantly higher burden of microbes and more human pathogenic strains than dogs. They're right. It's time we took a deep dive inside the beard.
Thanks to advances in science, we can now see the incredible micro-ecosystem living in men's beards, filled with things never before seen by the naked eye, including the least attractive Kardashian sibling, Cletus Kardashian, a weightlifting puppy, a chubby skeleton, a clock that sounds like Rachel Maddow, ducks in tiny cowboy hats, a dude who looks like Gilbert Gottfried but sounds like Barry White.
After the day of my voice changed and hair started growing on my face.
A broccoli-flavored bottle of Gatorade, and Puck from the real world. Beards, it's a whole new world in there.
Wow.
I don't believe it.
All right. Tyrus, you have a beard. Are you going to shave it after hearing these results?
No, I'm not, because I wash it. So, yeah,
Stop bragging. Jeez.
Yeah, I know, it's a real skill set. In the morning when I get up and take a shower, I wash my face and my hands, and then I wash my beard. And they even give you like soaps and shampoos and stuff. It's just for your beard, like beard butter and stuff. So, whatever.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I could lick myself whenever I wanted to clean myself and it was not frowned upon socially, I'd do it too. So it's not fair to dogs immediately if something hits them, they go to work. If I could, and no one would be tripping on me.
That's a good point there. Joe, the reality is, and I know that you're scared of everything in life, you're terrified now. There is bacteria everywhere. I mean, you think beards are bad, but the phone is worse. You don't leave your beard on the toilet, the bathroom floor of a public toilet, but everybody does.
Or my phone.
What?
Don't leave your phone on the bathroom floor of a public.
Everybody does.
No, because most of us can't
Only you.
reach. Oh, wait, he can.
We can settle this. How many people in this audience do that? Nobody raised their hand, Greg.
Joe, answer the question. I don't even know what the question was, but I demand you answer it.
The question was, are you on the way to a staph infection? That was the question.
Greg, you leave your phone on the bathroom floor. Okay. I don't understand why scientists were doing this study to begin with. Are people saying, hey, what's dirtier, men's beards or dogs? Let's settle that bet and make college tuition more expensive for everybody by doing that research. But as a person who can't really grow any kind of a beard.
Yes.
I think we should continue this research further. And I'll tell you what, ladies, no disgusting bacteria here.
Yeah. It's one of the pluses of being made by a toy maker.
Oh, damn you, Greg Gutfeld.
I didn't even.
as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo blames radical terrorists for the Easter Sunday bombings. Good evening, I'm John Scott, and this is the Fox Report. Police say 13 people are under arrest in connection to the nearly simultaneous blasts, which targeted hotels popular with tourists and worshipers on one of the holiest days in the Christian calendar. The string of explosions sent debris flying as windows shattered and ceilings collapsed.
There was a loud explosion. Just to check, I climbed up to the rooftop. About 1 kilometer away, we could see a white smoke coming out. And at that precise moment, there was a helicopter doing a flyby.
Trey Yingst is in Jerusalem now with the latest. Trey.
John, authorities say that at least 207 people were killed during these bombings in Sri Lanka early Sunday and hundreds more injured. Unfortunately, John, the death toll is expected to rise. During the first round of bombings this morning, 3 churches were targeted, as well as 3 luxury hotels across the island, that according to police. Another 2 bombings occurred later in the day. Authorities say the majority of the 8 bombings happened in the capital city of Colombo, and reports do indicate that 35 foreign nationals were killed, including at least 2 Americans. Police have arrested 13 people believed to be connected to the attacks. Footage shows police raiding one suspect's home with caution. Officers used ladders to scale the building and appeared to use some sort of tactical gas ahead of making entry. The 3 hotels hit are all popular for tourists visiting the island, and many likely came to celebrate the Easter holiday with friends and family. Video footage from the site of one church shows blood strewn across the pews and bodies covered with sheets. Many churches in Sri Lanka have canceled all of their weekend's Easter services because they are worried that another bombing could occur. Although just one small population within Sri Lanka is actually Christian, that makes up about 7% of the population. The history of Christianity in Sri Lanka dates back to the 1st century. Just 10 days ago, Sri Lanka's police chief actually warned that suicide bombers wanted to hit churches across the country. His statement was reportedly based on intelligence provided by another country, saying that NTJ, a group described by the Economic Times as a radical Muslim group, was planning the attacks. So far today, no group has taken responsibility for the bombings. Now, John, reports do indicate that Sri Lanka has banned all social media in the country and imposed a nationwide curfew. Out of fear that more bombings could occur, they are looking to keep civilians there safe. John?
Trey Yingst reporting from Jerusalem. Trey, thank you. Reaction to the bombings in Sri Lanka are pouring in from all over the world. During his Easter Sunday address, the Archbishop of Canterbury denounced what he calls utterly despicable attacks, recounting how a Sri Lankan bishop refused to leave his church until he had finished delivering his prayer, despite warnings from police.
I spoke to the Anglican Bishop of Colombo, Bishop Dilaraj. He was just beginning the prayer of consecration when the police arrived and said, "You must come with us. They are about to come and kill you." He refused to move until he had finished the prayer of consecration in his packed cathedral. And I quote his exact words to me: "If God gives me permission to live, I shall live. If he gives me permission to die, I shall die."
Garrett Tenney picks up our coverage from Washington.
These horrific Easter morning attacks have really unified the global community. Religious and political leaders from dozens of countries and various faiths are condemning the bombings, including Pope Francis. Sri Lanka is home to about 1.6 million Christians, and the vast majority are Roman Catholic. This morning, during his traditional Easter Sunday blessing at St. Peter's Basilica, Francis expressed his sorrow over the Easter morning attacks and prayed for those who were injured and who lost their lives.
I want to express my loving closeness to the Christian community, targeted while they were gathered in prayer, and all the victims of such cruel violence. I entrust to the Lord all those who were tragically killed and pray for the injured and all those who are suffering as a result of this dramatic event.
At least 27 foreigners were killed in the attacks, including several Americans. The U.S. ambassador to Sri Lanka offered her condolences, tweeting, "Deeply saddened by the senseless attacks in Sri Lanka today. Our thoughts are with the victims and their families. We stand with Sri Lanka's people at this terrible moment." Sri Lanka's foreign ministry says at least 5 British citizens are among the dead as well. UK Prime Minister Theresa May tweeted, "The acts of violence against churches and hotels in Sri Lanka are truly appalling, and my deepest sympathies go out to all those affected at this tragic time. We must stand together to make sure that no one should ever have to practice their faith in fear." The Dutch foreign minister confirmed at least one Dutch citizen was killed as well, tweeting, "Horrified by the terrible attacks on this Eastern Sunday in Sri Lanka. Our thoughts are with the victims, including one Dutch national at this moment. The Netherlands has passed its heartfelt condolences to the Sri Lankan people. We stand with you." Dozens of world leaders, including President Trump, have also said they stand ready to help Sri Lanka any way they can in the wake of these horrific attacks. John?
Garrett Tenney. Garrett, thank you. As President Trump marked Easter Sunday from his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, the White House issued a statement on the terror attacks in Sri Lanka. Quote, "The United States condemns in the strongest terms the outrageous terrorist attacks in Sri Lanka that have claimed so many precious lives on this Easter Sunday. Our heartfelt condolences go out to the families of the more than 200 killed and hundreds of others wounded. We stand with the Sri Lanka government and people as they bring to justice the perpetrators of these despicable and senseless acts." The President and the First Lady have left Florida now, heading back to Washington after attending Easter services, but not before the President fired off some tweets. Phil Keating is in West Palm Beach, Florida, with more on that. Phil.
Hi, John. The president also tweeted out sympathy for Sri Lanka this morning, offering heartfelt condolences and pledging that the U.S. is ready to help. Air Force One should be landing this hour, or actually is expected to be landing this hour at Joint Base Andrews, and then President Trump as well as First Lady Melania will make their way home to the White House. The long Easter weekend really dominated down here by two things: the Mueller report and golf. This morning, the president, First Lady Melania, daughter Tiffany, and her boyfriend attended Easter services at the nearby Bethesda by the Sea Episcopal Church. And in his one and only on-camera address this entire weekend in Palm Beach County, the president offered this short but upbeat message to the nation.
Happy Easter, everybody. Have a good day. A lot of great things happening for our country.
For the third straight morning, the president tweeted about the redacted Mueller report in reaction to it. Here's one. The Trump haters and angry Democrats who wrote the Mueller report were devastated by the no collusion finding. Nothing but a total hit job, which should never have been allowed to start in the first place. Here's another of the 30 Mueller report tweets by Trump over the past 3 days. Despite no collusion, no obstruction, the radical left Democrats do not want to go on to legislate for the good of the people, but only to investigate and waste time. This is costing our country greatly and will cost the Dems big time in 2020. On Friday as well as Saturday, the president did spend about 6 hours each day at his nearby Trump International Golf Club. That included one day, a little bit of a celebrity round with golfing with Rush Limbaugh and pro golfer Lexi Thompson. This is the 24th time that the Trumps have been down here to Mar-a-Lago, the winter White House, since he became president. And this Easter weekend trip, likely the president's last until Thanksgiving, as the winter season down here in South Florida pretty much ends this weekend. Back to you.
All right, Phil Keating in Florida. Thank you. More political fallout after the release of the redacted Mueller report. House Democrats are set to hold a conference call tomorrow, during which they are expected to discuss the potential impeachment of President Trump. The special counsel chose not to hand down any conspiracy charges against the president or members of his campaign. But House Intel Committee Chairman Adam Schiff says Robert Mueller still uncovered plenty of incriminating evidence.
The fact that you may not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt a criminal conspiracy doesn't mean that there's an absence of evidence of crime. The Mueller report makes it absolutely crystal clear that the initiation of this investigation was not only warranted, but absolutely necessary because it revealed a widespread systemic effort by the Russians to help the Trump campaign. And that, I think, is the overriding conclusion of this report.
Ellison Barber is live in Washington with more. Ellison.
John, Democrats do not believe the Mueller report cleared President Trump of wrongdoing. Instead, they say the special counsel's own words made it clear that Congress has more work to do. Monday's call is expected to be about the Mueller report and the steps Democrats will take next. In a letter to her Democratic colleagues, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the Mueller report includes several alarming findings, and the caucus is scheduling a conference call for Monday to discuss this grave matter, which is as soon as our analysis and this holy season's religious traditions allow. She then went on to quote the special counsel as saying, "We concluded Congress has authority to prohibit a president's corrupt use of his authority," and then added, "Congress will not be silent." In the past, Speaker Pelosi has said she is not for impeachment, but now that the Mueller report is out, some high-profile progressives are calling for it. Representative Rashida Tlaib renewed her calls for the House to begin impeachment proceedings immediately, and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says she will sign Representative Tlaib's impeachment resolution. House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff says that it is not an easy decision.
I think it's a very difficult decision, and we're going to have a caucus about this over the next couple weeks to try to figure out what the best course is, not for the party, but what's the best course for the country. I think it's certainly the case that an impeachment would be unsuccessful if the Republican Party continues to place party above country, continues essentially to back the president no matter how unethical or dishonest his conduct may be.
Some key Democrats say impeachment is not off the table, but right now they say more information is needed. They want to hear from special counsel Robert Mueller, and they want to get access to the unredacted report as well as all of the underlying documents.
And so I think that we need to make sure that Congress has all the information, and then we need to be able to have the public know that information so that they can see that they have a president that basically has been about the business, I think, of doing great harm, not only to our country, but to our democracy.
If proven, some of this would be impeachable, yes.
All right.
Obstruction of justice, if proven, would be impeachable.
Attorney General Barr is set to testify before lawmakers on May 1st and May 2nd. The House Judiciary Committee asked special counsel Mueller to appear before their committee no later than May 23rd. John?
Ellison Barber in Washington. Thank you.
You bet.
And there will be more reaction on the redacted Mueller report on Fox News Sunday when House Intel Committee Chairman Adam Schiff and President Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani both join Chris Wallace. That airs right after the Fox report, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The FBI arrests a man who allegedly took matters into his own hands by detaining migrants at the border as part of a vigilante armed militia. This comes as the U.S. deals with a surge of families looking for asylum and as the president and some lawmakers call for more action on immigration. Jeff Paul is following all of this from Los Angeles.
John, the FBI, along with local police in New Mexico, arrested the suspect on accusations of him being a felon in possession of firearms and ammunition. Investigators at the moment aren't releasing any other criminal background information on 69-year-old Larry Mitchell Hopkins, but we do know he's a member of the so-called border militia group United Constitutional Patriots. A spokesperson for the group is now reacting to this recent arrest.
We just started the day. We were sitting outside, and he didn't get arrested at camp. He just, a friend of ours from the police department came up and just said, "Hey, can you come talk to us for a little bit?" And that was that. And then we'd heard he was arrested. We didn't know what for. We didn't know what about.
Videos posted earlier in the week show members of the group dressed in military-style outfits armed with guns. You can see them ordering migrant families at times to sit on the ground where they then call the real Border Patrol. On Friday, federal authorities warned private groups like this to stop policing the border. But in this video you're about to watch, the group insists it's playing a vital role.
We're simply out here documenting and helping a stressed and overstrained Border Patrol that, believe it or not, needs our help. And you guys have seen how well we work together. Okay, there's no issues there. We get along great with Border Patrol.
New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas released a statement regarding the arrest on Saturday, saying, quote, "This is a dangerous felon who should not have weapons around children and families. Today's arrest by the FBI indicates clearly that the rule of law should be in the hands of trained law enforcement officials and not armed vigilantes." Customs and Border Protection says it does not endorse private groups like this taking enforcement matters into their own hands, saying that the interference could have public safety and legal consequences for all involved. John?
Jeff Paul in Los Angeles, thank you. Several Americans among the dead following this Easter Sunday massacre in Sri Lanka. The White House labels it terrorism.
We need to take the threat of terrorism very seriously. As a soldier, I enlisted after the attacks on 9/11 to take on these terrorist groups who attacked us.
So what will be the next step for the U.S. as the fight against terrorism rages on? Plus, a somber Easter Sunday in France as churchgoers pray for the speedy recovery of Notre Dame. A live report from Paris next. And it might be a holiday weekend, but fewer and fewer Americans are celebrating at houses of worship. How religious leaders are trying to reverse that trend.
People who are coming into adulthood these days are much, much less interested in and attached to religion than that generation that's passing away.
Is back in the Washington, D.C. area. There you see Air Force One having landed at Joint Base Andrews a short time ago. The president and Mrs. Trump will be boarding the Marine One helicopter for a trip back to the White House. Our Phil Keating says this may be their last trip to Florida, at least for the summer. Things get a little heated down there, and the president may spend most of the rest of this upcoming summer in more northerly climes. We'll keep you updated. Catholics in France and around the world gather for Easter Sunday Mass. less than a week after the devastating fire gutted the Notre Dame Cathedral. The firefighters who put out the flames held a place of honor at a service in Paris as worshippers pray for a swift reconstruction of the beloved monument. Molly Line is live in Paris with more. Molly.
Hi, John. That's right. Easter celebrations were moved from the Notre Dame Cathedral due to the fire to the nearby St. Eustache Church. There were thousands that packed in there today to worship as part of this Holy Sunday. One of the organists from Notre Dame played for the service, and that first row in the church filled with firemen who were applauded. The Archbishop of Paris, Michel Auputet, thanked them for their bravery. He talked about Notre Dame of following Christ's example, and he did not forget the tragedy in Sri Lanka.
We followed Christ on the way of the cross. Christ fell each time he got up again. And brothers and sisters, we will get up again. Like our cathedral will rise again, our church will be also washed of all the blemishes that it sustains and that is responsible for as well. We are especially thinking of our brothers in Sri Lanka who were massacred.
French President Emmanuel Macron has focused on the rebuilding of Notre Dame throughout the week, but today offered his condolences, writing, "We are deeply saddened by the terrorist attacks against churches and hotels in Sri Lanka. We firmly condemn these odious acts. We stand by the people of Sri Lanka, and our thoughts go out to the loved ones of the victims on this Easter Sunday." Just a few moments ago, the most recognizable symbol here in the City of Lights, the Eiffel Tower, went dark. That is, in tribute to the victims of the Sri Lankan attacks. John?
Molly Line, live from Paris. Thank you, Molly. While it was miraculously spared during last week's inferno, the world-famous Notre Dame organ still will require extensive repairs. The church's chief organist says the instrument and its 8,000 pipes will have to be treated for water and smoke damage because of the fire. Notre Dame staffers say it will need to be dismantled and transported outside Paris, a process that could take years and cost millions. As people around the world gather for Easter and Passover celebrations, a new study shows a drastic drop in church membership here in the U.S. The Gallup poll finds the number of Americans belonging to a religious institution falling to 50% and still dropping. Chief religion correspondent Lauren Green has details.
While pews may fill up for the holiest days of Easter and Passover this weekend, a new poll shows the membership rolls are declining.
Pretty disappointing because I think a church could be 2 people or more that's believing in their religion and God.
The Gallup survey shows that between the late 1930s and late 90s, the percentage of Americans who belonged to a house of worship hovered around 70%. But in the last 20 years, that percentage dropped to 50%. A generational trend, much of the driving force, from millennials, who make up the biggest percentage of those who don't identify with a specific religion. But baby boomers and older still make up the bulk of those who are members and attend regularly.
People who are coming into adulthood these days are much, much less interested in and attached to religion than that generation that's passing away.
But the drop in membership doesn't necessarily mean Americans are not religious or believe in a higher power. More than 3/4 of Americans, 77%, still identify with some organized religion.
For me, God still means something to me at being devoted and taking the time to do that. It's just the difficult part.
New York's Archbishop Timothy Cardinal Dolan is confident the trend can be reversed if church leaders can tap into what they believe is the longing in every heart.
We've seen these trends come and go in the past. If we can re-emphasize what I think is not only the natural but the supernatural connection between belief and belonging, we'll be back up there.
The decline in church membership is greater for Catholics than Protestants, a possible byproduct of the clergy sex abuse crisis. By political affiliation, it shows a modest decline for Republicans, while among Democrats, a nearly 25% decline. In New York, Lauren Green, Fox News.
Today's bombings in Sri Lanka fueling concerns that country could return to the days of violent political instability.
During the 30 years of civil war, we had lots of explosions in Colombo. We are used to our airport getting blown up and the central banks, things like that. But it's been 10 years of peace, and we got used to that.
The latest on the aftermath straight ahead. Plus, they changed the course of World War II and renewed the hope of a nation. How the last of the Doolittle Raiders is being remembered 77 years after that daring mission.
in disbelief. We never thought, we were all dumbfounded, really. We moved back to this country after the war. Actually, myself, I was living elsewhere, and in 2011, because this is a peaceful country, and now we are just totally surprised and dumbfounded. But we will come out of this, I'm confident.
More than 200 dead, including several Americans, as Sri Lanka sees its deadliest day of violence since the country's bloody civil war ended a decade ago. I'm John Scott, and this is the Fox Report. We're approaching the bottom of the hour. If you're just joining us, Sri Lankan officials are describing a string of blasts targeting Christian churches as well as hotels in and around the country's capital as a terror attack by religious extremists. Now there are fears those attacks could trigger a new wave of instability there. Jackie Heinrich joins us now with more. Jackie?
Well, John, this is the most recent attack in a wave of terror attacks across the world on houses of worship with roots in nationalist movements. Just last month, a gunman killed 50 people at a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. And then closer to home, a gunman killed 11 people at a synagogue in Pittsburgh back in October. But attacks on Christians are increasing worldwide, especially in Egypt.
The reality is that attacks on Christians have been growing, 3,000 deaths in the last year alone. That was double the previous year, and perhaps there hasn't been as much attention focused on the persecution of Christians as there should have been.
Sri Lanka is no stranger to religious conflict. Its short history as an independent country has been marked by bloodshed. Since it gained independence from Britain in 1948, there have been nationalist clashes as religious and ethnic groups battled for power. A civil war raged on for nearly 30 years until 2009, after the minority Tamil groups, who are mostly Hindu, were disenfranchised by Sinhalese Buddhists, who resented the favoritism the Tamils had during British rule. The insurgents, led by the Tamil Tigers, launched suicide attacks, and the Sri Lankan army fought to take them down. Most of the civil war happened in the northeast of the country, in the Tamil stronghold. It's estimated around 80,000 people were killed over those 26 years. The country is just roughly the size of Ireland. But the civil war ended in 2009 when the government killed the leader of the Tamil Tigers and claimed victory. In the years since, there's been deep division along ethnic lines. Recently, Buddhist national groups have been stoking fears that minorities are gaining influence.
But first and foremost, we have to ensure that terrorism does not lift its head in Sri Lanka. We should do is hold our unity as Sri Lankans and ensure that we wipe out this menace once and for all.
In March of last year, a state of emergency was declared. Buddhist groups attacked mosques and Muslim-owned properties. Now these attacks on the Christian minority. No group has claimed responsibility for this attack, John.
All right, Jackie Heinrich. Jackie, thank you. For more on this, let's bring in Fox News national security analyst Waleed Phares. Waleed, the government there is saying religious extremists are to blame. What does that mean?
Well, the intelligence service of Sri Lanka and what they call allied intelligence services have even put a name forward, which is the National Tawheed Jama'ah. That would be a jihadi group. Obviously, we'll have to wait for more information coming about this group. But the way it operated, multiple targets in multiple cities, focusing on the churches, more or less would indicate that this is of jihadi origin. But again, we don't have names yet, and the government didn't decide yet to reveal what they know. Everything we have is online. But let me make, John, a distinction between the old civil war, which was ethnic and religious, between the Tamil in the north and the Sinhalese majority, is one thing. It's like Spain had a civil war, but Spain was attacked in 2004, years after, by Al-Qaeda, as we remember, and Britain the same. So what would be of concern is the capacity of a jihadi group, if it's established, to attack a country with with small minorities of Christians and Muslims, and getting that experience, this terrorist experience, from somewhere. This is where my question mark would be.
Yeah, because there is not a large Muslim presence in Sri Lanka. It's about 10% of the population or so, larger than the Christian community. But why Sri Lanka?
Well, that's the best question of the day. I'd say, in my view, because of the sophistication of the attacks, it puts this group at a level higher than just local extremist, Islamist, jihadi group. This group seems to be organized at a level of Al-Qaeda or ISIS or anybody in that field, and they are targeting actually the national security of Sri Lanka. Remember one thing, John, is Sri Lanka is a strategic military ally of the United States. They were with us in many campaigns. There is a coordination. I have lectured to many Sri Lankan officers here in Washington, D.C. over the past 10 years. So it is really directed at the role of Sri Lanka in the international coalition against ISIS and the jihadists.
This was a sophisticated attack. I mean, 6 essentially simultaneous bombings, a lot of suicide bombings. There must have been a lot of communication. The government apparently had some warnings, but nothing was done, at least not enough, to stop what happened here. Why?
You know, it reminds me of the warnings we had before 9/11, the same warnings that the British and the Spanish and the French had before their 9/11s, the first massive, complicated attack against their own institutions. So, yes, you could have warnings, but if you don't have the experience of being targeted by jihadists, your only experience is a civil war between Tamil and Sinhalese. Unfortunately, this is how it happened. The first strike always is the strongest strike. Now, definitely the counterterrorism units in that country held by us and by the allies in the region will pay more attention.
So what can the U.S. do, and what will the U.S. do to help out here?
Well, the U.S. government has proposed aid and support, and obviously what will come after that will be sharing of information. There will be meetings between our agencies and their agencies. There will be consultation between a number of countries in the region because, again, I keep pushing for that point. They are too organized, they are too efficient to be very local. So does that bring us to a link with some organization in the region as a whole? Should it be ISIS, offshoot of ISIS, Al-Qaeda? That would be the benchmark that we're going to be looking for.
The civil war there ran for about 30 years. It's been over for 10. There are fears that this attack could restoke those old flames, those old indignations. Do you see that happening?
Unfortunately, I'm not of that view because the old civil war was settled between the two major ethnic religious groups. Obviously, political tensions are still around. What that would do, basically, is to revive the claims of the people who are not satisfied with how the old civil war has ended by saying the government is not protecting all the communities, so on and so forth. But we are really dealing, the Sri Lankans are dealing with a jihadi threat. It's not Tamil Tigers or it's not Sinhalese. So that is going to bring to the island and to its government a new perspective of looking at national security.
Waleed Phares, our Fox News national security analyst. Thank you, Waleed.
Thank you, John.
Well, the last of the Doolittle Raiders who changed the direction of World War II in the Pacific remembered this past week at a special service in Texas. Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin has more on the legendary mission and one of the men who saw it up close.
It was a turning point in the war, just 4 months after Pearl Harbor, and gave the nation hope. Lieutenant Colonel Richard Cole was Jimmy Doolittle's co-pilot leading the surprise counterattack over Japan.
How we were selected to go on that raid, I don't know.
Cole was the last surviving Doolittle raider when he died last week at age 103.
The goal was Tokyo.
The raid was a virtual suicide mission. 16 bombers with 80 men on board, taking off from the aircraft carrier Hornet, 650 miles east of Japan, to bomb Tokyo and break the will of the Japanese. The B-25 bombers had to be modified. Typically, they needed 3,000 feet of runway to take off, but only had 500 feet on the carrier. The mission boosted morale back home and changed the course of the war. 3 Doolittle raiders were killed, 8 captured by the Japanese, 4 survived years of solitary confinement. All but 1 bomber crash-landed in China. The raiders thought they would be court-martialed, not honored. Asked how he became Doolittle's co-pilot on the famous mission, Cole said it was fate.
It was strictly by luck. They had put a note up on the board about they wanted volunteers for a dangerous mission. And I had put my name there.
2 months after the raid, Doolittle received the nation's highest Valor Award.
President Roosevelt awards Brigadier General Jimmy Doolittle the Congressional Medal of Honor as it becomes known that the leader of the squadron of Army bombers that roared over Japan in that historic raid.
The raiders agreed to meet every year until only 2 remained. In 2013, they uncorked a bottle of vintage 1896 cognac, the year of Doolittle's birth, for a final toast. The Air Force says it will name its new bomber the Raider in honor of the legendary Doolittle Raiders. At the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
This nation owes them all a great debt. The SpaceX capsule designed for human flight suffers a setback. Officials say a, quote, anomaly occurred during a routine engine test at Cape Canaveral yesterday, causing plumes of smoke just off the Florida coast. SpaceX's Crew Dragon successfully flew without a crew to the International Space Station last month. Officials had previously said the first flight with astronauts could be as early as this summer, but the schedule is now under review. You might think American politics are no laughing matter, but you haven't seen anything like this. Find out what happened in the Ukraine when voters cast their ballots in a presidential runoff. Plus, former Vice President Joe Biden is set to officially announce his bid for the presidency this week. So how will his candidacy impact the already crowded Democratic primary race?
I know you use your political speeches, and I'm a politician, I get it. But this is way beyond that, guys. This is way beyond that. This is wrong. This is morally wrong what's going on around this country. And I've had enough of it. I'm sick of it, and so are you. I have the most progressive record of anybody running for the United, if anybody who would run. I didn't mean. But anybody who would run.
Yeah, that one fun. He's columnist for the National Review magazine. He has run twice before for the